What's up, everybody? Welcome to the talkSPORT MMA channel with me, Alex Richings, aka Bailey. And it is UFC 312 fight week, and we caught up with Dricus Du Plessis ahead of his title defense against Sean Strickland. First question I want to ask, I want to take you back, if I can, to the 18th of September, 2012, which you'll probably remember the night you won your kickboxing world title. I just want to know if we can get an understanding how you felt at that age, at that stage as a martial artist, in terms of how far you developed and how much further you thought that you might be able to grow, you know?
At that stage, I was the first junior to ever amateur to go to the WACO World Championships and become a world champion from South Africa in the K1 ring. We went there, and it was we South Africa always went there to compete. We never had somebody win and not even get close to. And that was almost a message conveyed by everybody in the kickboxing community is don't go. Like, this is going to be a great experience, enjoy it. But you're going to see the difference between people that do this and kids that, the Russian kids and all these Eastern European countries that compete, and European countries that compete with each other. Every other weekend they compete internationally because it's a 2-hour train ride, or it's right there. We compete with each other in South Africa. And I always sat there and the whole time listening, and me and my dad went there, and I just thought, your mentality is wrong, guys. You all are going here to compete. I'm going here to win. And they said, yeah, you're gonna understand once you get there. And once I got there, I did understand. I saw what it looked like fighting. These guys are insane. They look like professional fighters, and this is their life since they were kids. And I looked at them and I said, well, if I punch them in the face, they're just like everybody else, they'll go down. And I became world champion. It was the most tired I've been up until that point in my life. I was literally couldn't walk out of the ring. My legs were kicked to the TR. But I became world champion, and after that, that feeling I had, that's where I decided I want to do this for a living, because being the world champion at amateur level from a place like South Africa, where this sport is not considered a world-class sport or athlete, I had to have something, and the only thing I had was the passion and the drive and the mindset to become the best. And that's when I decided I want to be the greatest fighter on earth. If I could do this as an amateur, I can do this as a professional.
So this Strickland fight, let's just switch back to the upcoming fight, obviously. A lot of people have talked about whether he deserved it or not. I'm sure you've had similar questions, but how do you gauge the fan interest in this rematch compared to some of the other fights you've had previously? Where do you think fan interest is generally?
Well, I think in the South African fans, they are incredible. The support comes, it doesn't really matter who I fight. They support me and want to watch me defend that title and defend that flag. On the world, there's more people want to see this fight now than they wanted to see the first one. The first fight was kind of a random fight, myself and Strickland, because firstly, nobody expected him to win a title. Then nobody expected me to even get close to a top 10. And here the two of us are the two contender, the champion and the contender. And the fight was a war. I won the fight on points, in my opinion, pretty decisively, and in most people's opinion, pretty decisively. And he has his fans and himself, and rightfully, calling for another title shot is great. But it was one most of my fights are finishes. I only have 2 decisions, and him being one of them. So the first fight sells the second fight. There's no need to our press conference and altercation in the crowd at the UFC 304 created a lot of hype and a lot of interest in the first fight. But that first fight, how close it was in terms of back and forth. My face was completely busted up. He was bleeding all over. It was an absolute war. And now people want to see what has changed over the past year. Who has developed the most? Who has grown the most? And even if they have to watch the exact same fight as the first fight, it's worth the money. They know it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I agree, man. The crowd was going crazy, especially towards the end of that first one. You guys were just going at it. Speaking of the first fight, though, so last time around, the first round, all three judges gave that to Sean, right?
Yeah, I agree with
In
that.
your mind, in your mind, is that because you were maybe adjusting to his style? Did you intentionally maybe take the first round a little easier, or do you think you did do enough? I guess you don't. But what happened in that first round?
So in the first round, with the whole fight, because I've never went 5 rounds, and I knew they thought they saw all my fights because it's 3 round fights. I come out from when the ref says fight, I go full speed, and I try to get
Yeah,
it, from the word get go. This 5 rounds
I
and three
love that.
rounds is a massive difference, and I knew they were planning on that. And then after round two, that's when they are gonna start. When I get fatigued and tired, that's when they are gonna. So I switched it up, and I said, okay, the first 2 rounds, I'm gonna take it slow, and then I'm gonna push the pace come around 3, 4, and 5. And after the first round, I went around 60%, maybe a bit 70. I don't know, but I was really holding back. And obviously, when you're fighting at that level, 60 and 70%, it's not gonna cut it. And I got the takedown, but ultimately, I went to the corner and said, "We lost that round. I know that for a fact. I could feel it." And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna pick up the pace a little in the second round." Went out in the second round and did exactly that. And I know I won that second round. It was a much better round for me. I pushed the pace, trying to get into the pocket a little bit more. And from the third round, that's where things started going, because I think they misjudged the fact how my conditioning improved and how ready I was for that 5 round fight. In the end of the third round, midway through the third round, I could see Sean Strickland's whole body demeanor, face, saying that this is hard. This guy's not backing down. I'm keeping that forward pressure. And I heard his coach as he came in saying to him, "I don't like that round." And I knew I had that third round in the bag. When the fourth round came about, this is the first time in my whole career I go to a fourth round. I felt like I was on a cloud. I felt invincible. I felt
Wow.
I felt fresher than I did before the fight started. I felt now we can fight. Now I feel like, and that fourth round was by far my best round. When the first round came in that fourth round, I really pushed it. I really pushed it hard. And when
Yeah,
the first round came about, it's how you should feel in the fifth round. If you go into a fifth round and you're not tired, you didn't do enough. You could have done more. And that
amazing.
fifth round, I said, 5 minutes of my life, let's go. I mean, there's nothing, I can just go. In the fifth round, both of us were tired and we threw down. And if you look at that fifth round, you see Sean in the last 40 seconds of that round really go for it. And people go, "He won that round." There's no way. I was winning 3 minutes, I was winning 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes of that whole round was my round. Me going forward, me, landing big punches. He was landing too. Listen, it was a back and forth fight. And he started throwing crazy haymakers in the last 30 seconds. But ultimately, an amazing fight. I just knew I did enough. The split decision was a shock to me. I thought
Yeah.
we definitely have this unanimous. So it was but I wouldn't have had it any other way, because I had to prove to the world, to myself, that I can go 5 rounds
Yep.
and go as hard as I can for 5 rounds.
Yeah, and that was part of the game plan going in. Understand. So that being said, you've already fought Sean, but I think a lot of people want to know, just in your opinion, obviously as a champion, who do you think the toughest fight in the division is for you? And I'm going to say this because you probably are aware, but people might not be aware. You've already beaten all of the former champions that are left in that weight class, right up until Chris Weidman, who's obviously not, I don't even know, he may have retired, but he's moved up to other weight classes. So it's not like you have a lot of, former champions or veterans to test yourself against. It's probably going to be new challenges after here, but I'll, hand the question over to you. The toughest fight you think in the division right now?
Yeah, I think the toughest fight right now in the division is Sean Strickland for me. I think he deserves this title fight. And I have to say that because that's the guy that's in front of me. That's the only
Right.
guy that's pushed me 5 rounds. So definitely Sean Strickland. And if everybody in the division had to fight and somebody had to come out on top, it would be me. And the guy that's going to fight everybody else to fight me for the top position, it would be Hamzat. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I think he's the next contender.
Yeah, of course. I don't want to throw your focus because we're all excited about what's to come, of course, as well. So there we go. That being said, have you seen this bromance that's kind of developed between Whitaker and Izzy? Because they both obviously faced you, both obviously lost you, bonded a little bit over the experience of fighting you and taking on your style. I don't know if you've seen that, and they're back and forth
Yeah, I've
about
seen
it.
it. I've seen it. It's amazing to see. Like I said, I would love the opportunity to one day train with both those guys.
Amazing.
I think they are absolutely, the amount of knowledge they have and what I could learn from them, being lifelong martial artists. I mean, I'm such a big Robert Whitaker fan. I've always been, even way before I was still like 19, 20 years old, I think. Yeah, around there. And I was already, when he came into the UFC, I was a big fan uh, after the Ultimate Fighter. And
Yeah.
I have always looked up to him, but I've always had this feeling that one day our paths will cross. And almost more of a dream, thinking of myself, imagine fighting Robert Whitaker. And yeah, I've just the utmost respect for the man as a human, as outside of the octagon and as a fighter. It was a big honor to fight him, and the same with Adesanya. As a fighter, I have the world's respect for Adesanya. What he's achieved as an all-time great of the sport, going into the Hall of Fame. That's my dream too. That's my goal
Yeah.
too. So, being able to beat a guy like Adesanya was that was the biggest moment of my career by far. And seeing how this sport, because that's what martial arts at the end of the day. Right now, we can't have that. I can't be buddy buddy with the guy that I'm going to fight, or along the way. It's not how we can't train together. My mind wouldn't allow it.
Of
But
course.
the two of them in their trajectory and where they are in their careers are not going to fight again. So now they can, it's not even that. I don't think a lot of fighters genuinely hate each other. Sometimes it is there. It is there. It's just like in life. Sometimes you genuinely don't like somebody, and sometimes there's just a disagreement. But like with me and Sean, there's a there's a respect there, especially after that first
Yeah.
fight. We don't hate each other. It's no ill will. We just want something from the other guy. And in this case, I have his title, the title that he wants so bad. And in this case, he wants my title, which is mine, and I will defend it to death. And with Izzy and Rob now being able to share their knowledge with each other, I think it's incredible to see. And I would love to one day have the opportunity. If Izzy decides to call it a day, I would definitely love to train with him.
I'm sure you will, man. I'm sure you will. 100%, dude. I love seeing that. That's super cool. There's like a mutual understanding when you get to learn a little bit more about someone when you feel their style. So I'm sure there's some great conversations. I'm sure you'll have some as well. Let me ask you a fun question now. I heard that once back in the day, you used to learn techniques from the back of Black Belt magazine, right? I was just wondering, do you remember any of those techniques? Are there any that like you actually took on board, or maybe a specific like method of throwing a hook or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had my first fights with that. I had my first fights
Amazing.
without a coach, my first amateur fights without a coach. I did my first MMA fight, and I've never ever trained MMA in my life. I only have those techniques. The craziest thing is I was already a national South African champion in kickboxing, a K1 kickboxing.
Amazing.
And when I had my first, I was at an MMA event. I wanted to fight a guy very badly. I was 16, 17 years old. He was 20 years old, around there, 2021. And they said, listen, there's no kickboxing fights yet. This guy only fights MMA. And I said, well, okay. I've seen this in the movies. This is what what my goal was, is to fight MMA. But I mean, I wasn't from a small town. There was nobody knew MMA.
Right.
I went in, the
Wow.
fight
Crazy.
started, obviously being a kickboxer. First thing I did, I've seen these, it's Fighters Only magazine always had these things. So I would train them on my brother. I was
Okay.
asking him to help me, and he was older. So, and they both were judo champions. So they understood what was going on. So,
Yeah.
the internet and YouTube wasn't a thing as it is in social media like right now. So that wasn't a possibility. And then when that fight started, the first thing I did, within the first 5 seconds of the fight, I shot for a double leg. And I took it out and I put him on the ground. The guy
Amazing.
got me in an armbar. I had no idea what to do. Almost breaking my arm. I was trying to punch the guy while having my arm. Got back up on him, started ground and pounding. Had his back, literally didn't know about hooks, didn't understand what that was. So just turned him around and sat on him, mounted and punched him till it was a TKO. And that's why
Amazing.
there was no stand up. I just literally took him to the floor. And that was me being like 10-0 in amateur kickboxing by that stage. And that was the thing I did. I went, listen, this is for me. This MMA thing is cool.
That's a great story, dude. Thank you for sharing that. That's an amazing first story. Just to speak a little bit more technically about your style, then, something you do that some fighters do. I don't know if you use this as the terminology, but you shift. When you throw your backhand, sometimes you'll step through and switch stance as you throw. Just wondering, is that something that was instinctual? Is that something you guys train as part of your team? Or is that, what made you consciously decide to do that? Or is it just something that sort of came?
No, that's 100% trained. I mean, I never did that earlier in my career. You'll see. The
Right.
problem
Okay.
I always only fought conventional. I only started, I would switch and switch back immediately. Now I find
Yeah.
there's something, for me, I think 50% of things I do better Southpaw than Orthodox, and other things I do better Orthodox than Southpaw. For me,
your left leg is really powerful from both stances, dude.
yeah, and the crazy thing about this is that I only discovered that later in my career that I can kick with that leg as hard as I can. Um, I think my left leg is a bit more accurate, where my right leg is still, it's my natural leg. It's much harder. But the thing is, for me right now, I don't even realize when I'm Southpaw Orthodox. I am so comfortable. I started implementing that around 3-4 years ago. Yeah, fighting both stances, being as comfortable right-handed as left-handed, and that's changed my game, because closing the distance in an MMA fight is the toughest thing there is. Closing the distance, because we're so far apart. To close the distance, you are entering as a danger zone. So I'm constantly looking for ways to close that distance as hard and as quick as possible,
Yeah.
and then being there and making it work. And
Yeah.
that's
And
why
also with
sometimes you will see me stepping in, because with that step over, I get to close that distance quicker.
Yeah. And you can extend the distance if they retreat as well, right?
Yes, exactly.
Amazing. High level. You know what I mean? I love it, dude. Insane. All right. So let's talk about the style of Sean really quickly, because we know that he's got a great jab. He has this Philly shell defensive style. You've been in there with him. We saw the jab was effective. Obviously, every fighter has different weapons that work. How was it reading that jab? His hand is really low. It comes from the hip. Is there anything you can say about his jab that sets it apart, or anything you're expecting from it come Saturday?
Yeah, his jab is very and constant. It's good. It's great. I mean, I'm prepared for that now, 100%. And everybody asked me, getting around that jab. What are you? I'm like, I don't have to get around that jab. I don't care if my face looks like that again. It was a week, and it didn't even look like I was fighting. I do bruise easily. I do bruise easily, but I mean, it was a jab. Nothing hurt me. I don't care about that jab. But his jab is very good. The timing is different. It's a solid jab. It's not. He doesn't just use the jab to set up. He uses the jab to punch you, and his defense is incredible. Yeah, it's always been. He prioritizes that defense and jabbing and defending, and that's why he has so many decisions. So fighting him, he almost forces you to kind of make yourself vulnerable to be able to make a fight, or to be able to get your own offense going. Because if you're going to stand and wait for him, waiting for the right opportunity, we see that with all fighters. Paulo Costa did it. All the fighters that he's beaten, he starts walking forward, and you miss, and you miss, and the guys are waiting for this big shot. No, it's about throwing. You have to be as fit as you could be when you fight Sean Strickland, because he's fit. If he's walking forward, and just pointing his way to victory, he is going to beat anybody in the world. You have to make him uncomfortable. You have to make him fight you. You can't have him behind his guard and just pointing his way to victory, because that's what he'll do. He doesn't care if a crowd's booing. He doesn't care. So if you want to fight, you have to go and fight him, and you're going to take some shots, and you have to be willing to take some shots to give him.
Amazing. Looking forward to that on Saturday. So I mentioned now, obviously you've already beaten all the former middleweight champions there are. I don't want you to look too past Saturday night, obviously, but what are your thoughts about changing weight classes? Obviously, previously you've won titles at welterweight. I would imagine, though, if you do change, you'll be looking to move up. It's a question a lot of people have asking. Have you thought about that at any point?
Yeah, of course. But right now the middleweight division is looking so. I mean, if you just, it's exciting. If you look at the title picture a year ago versus now, I mean, it was like the whole the top five completely switched around with new blood, new era, new generation. and it's very, very exciting. So for me, I know I've beaten three guys in the top five. Yeah, I think Izzy is number five, Whitaker is number four, Sean's number one contender. So three out of the five I've already beaten, and
Yeah.
one of them twice. That's already starting a lap. That's already starting a. So for me, but with Imamov's performance now, then you have Hamzat in there, and you have Carbajal, who's zoning in on a massive 7-fight win streak.
Yeah.
You have that. So it's looking exciting. This guys coming in and contenders are rising. Hamzat is the next contender for the middleweight title. I know that. And then then there's contender fights and great ones with that. So yeah, the middleweight's exciting, and I'm definitely looking to move up in weight 100%. But that will only be once I have undoubtedly cleared out the middleweight division and
Right.
am seen as the best middleweight ever.
Yeah. But you've already made a good start. I mean, you've already made a good start. I've got one prediction. Everyone wants to know Jones versus Aspinall. Have you got a prediction on that one?
I don't need to see that fight. I am too big a fan of both guys. Yeah, I mean, I'm Aspinall's such a good guy, and Aspinall is such an incredible fighter. He is the next generation, 100%.
Yeah.
See a heavyweight move like a middleweight. He can strike, he can grapple, he can wrestle, but so can John Jones. And everybody's like, no, he's going to beat John Jones. How do you say that? Nobody's been able to do that. Every time people say John Jones, this fight, John Jones knows how to win. John Jones, everybody said Cyril Gain, at heavyweight. Cyril Gain is a real heavyweight. John Jones is looking out of shape. Went in there and made it look like child's play. John Jones is a different animal in his mentality, and that makes a champion. But then you have Tom Aspinall. The same, he has that mentality too. Young, hungry. I mean, to pick a winner that fight, like I was so, when I saw that fight is probably not going to happen after the Stipe fight, I thought, no, that fight's not going to happen. Like John Jones is calling it a career, and Aspinall was the new. And then they started with the negotiations, and I just don't need to see it because I mean, John Jones at his age doesn't need to prove anything. He's done it all. At some stage, you have to give over you have to give it over. Yeah, at some stage. And John Jones is just one of those guys where he has beaten, and everybody's like, you have to fight Aspinall. You don't want to fight Aspinall. Yeah, but remember how many of those Aspinalls he's fought in the past. He's been at the top of the game for how long? Exactly. He's taken out guys coming in, guys that's retired already, that were up and coming that he's beaten. He's like the Valentino Rossi of the UFC. Like people come, beats, gets close, beats him, like generations. So he doesn't have to prove anything more. And with Tom Aspinall, I do believe that other than Jones, there's not a heavyweight that's coming close to him. I mean, if you just see Sergey Pavlovich was for me one of the scariest human beings on earth. Somebody that I genuinely wouldn't want to fight. And what he did to him on that short notice, I was blown away. Tom Aspinall, I am a believer.
All right, I love it. All right, final thing we like to do here, we play a game called Dana's Room, based on the idea that Dana White once said, you lock John Jones in the room, he'll walk out. So I'm going to give you some people who are going into a room, and you've got to tell me out of these three people who you think is going to walk out of the room.
Got it.
All right. First one, starting these one, Jones, Aspinall, Ngannou.
That is a terrible, that's like answering my, just in terms of style, okay, I got it. Just in terms of style, John Jones is walking out of that room. Just in terms of style, because John Jones with the elbows, the knees in that close quarters, I think Aspinall needs a little bit more space. So depending on how big the room is, I'm going to give it to Jones.
That's some good analysis. All right, Habib, GSP, Usman.
I just think Habib has that killer in him. But then again, if you have three guys, one guy's taking one guy down, lying on top, then you have the other guy. My GM, and I think George GSP GOAT of welterweight division, but I think he's too nice of a guy to really hit somebody with an elbow or knee behind the head while he's on top of someone. So I'm going Usman.
This is a very serious room, but this is a serious question, so I get it. Usman, all right, we got it. Islam, Sarukian, Topuria.
Topuria.
Nice. I like that one. Hand speed, power, probably going to get it done. Edwards, Shavkat, and Bilal.
Shavkat.
Oh, I like that. What happens? He brings a bow and arrow, probably, right?
Maybe, and I just think he has the
Not
all-around
enough room.
game, and like, yeah, just Bilal is very short.
Nice. Pereira, Hamza, Adesanya for the last one there.
Out of those three, jeez, it's hard to take it away from Alex Pereira. I mean, what he's done, but once again, now you have the situation where Hamzat's not going to strike either one of them. He's going to try and take them down. Then you have the other guy. I'm going Alex Pereira.
All right. Nice. I think people would agree with you. Last one, Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis. Who walks out?
Oh, that's not even a question. If it's a fight to the death, it's not a man alive that would beat me.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe as well. And keep it here on talkSPORT MMA. Plenty more stuff coming up during UFC Fight Week and every UFC Fight Week.